All right, it's 12:30, so I'm going to jump in because I know y'all have a lot going on. So I don't want to take up too much of your time. I'm excited to be here today. I wish I were here under better circumstances, but nonetheless, we are here together. Raise your hand if you thought that you would be attending a webinar. 2 weeks ago, did you think you'd be attending a webinar called How to Lead a Remote Team During the Coronavirus Pandemic? Yeah, 2 weeks ago, I did not think I'd be giving this webinar, but here we are. So I am Leah Rowe. I am a CPA, I'm a business coach, and I am a remote work expert. And I am so grateful and thankful for SVA, who has brought us all together today. So let's jump in. A little bit about me and what we're going to be talking about today. I'm Leah. I'm a CPA, business coach, organizational culture consultant, and I am a remote work expert. So my background is actually in building, developing, and scaling remote teams and cultures. So this remote stuff is kind of my jam, although, as you will learn soon, we are in a different remote work world right now. So I'm going to present for about the next 30 minutes till about 1 p.m., and then we will jump into some Q&A. So let's start with why. Why are we all here today? We are here because this is not a normal work from home situation. Many people, many of us, many of your employees are remote for the first time. A lot of people are remote only for the first time. So even if you have some experience working from home every now and then, it's still different when you're completely remote. For a lot of people, this was really abrupt. There was no time to plan or strategize. When I work with organizations on becoming remote friendly, remote first, or totally remote companies, there is a lot of time. We put together a whole plan, a whole strategy, change management, tons of communication with employees and making sure that they understand what's going on, they're taken care of at home, like all questions are answered. A lot of us didn't have time to do that. Another huge one, this is not a normal work from home situation because our kids are at home with us. Another thing to note, leading a team through a pandemic was not a subject that was taught in business school, at least not where I went. So if anyone took that class, please let me know. But honestly, this is an unprecedented time. It's unprecedented, and so we need to make some shifts. And so that's why we are here today. We are talking about how to lead a remote team specifically right now during the coronavirus pandemic. And so I'm going to go through 5 different areas. These are my 5 tips, and we're going to start with the do it now stuff. So do it now. If there's nothing else you take from this webinar, I recommend you do these things right now. The first thing is determine what work is priority and what work can be done remotely. It's definitely possible that you all are in different businesses and different industries. It's definitely possible that there's work that cannot be done remotely right now. So I want you to have a discussion with your direct reports. Ask them, based on your goals, what is priority to accomplish over the next week? I'm saying over the next week because things are shifting and evolving so quickly that as business leaders, yes, we need to be thinking about, further down as well, but like for our employees and our teams right now, let's just talk about the next week. What is priority to get done in the next week? And then what do you need to be able to accomplish those goals remotely? So determine what work is priority and can be done remotely right now. And remember, you do not have to have all the answers. Nobody was planning for this 6 months ago. Have a discussion with your team. Listen to them. What is priority? What do they need in order to do this work remotely? Tip number 2, use Zoom. We're on Zoom right now. If you don't want to use Zoom, there are other video softwares out there, but I'm really recommending that you implement a video software with your team that's working from home. Zoom is awesome because it is free for meetings up to 40 minutes. You can go to www.zoom.us, but human connection, even via video, is crucial when working remotely. And it's even more crucial right now because it's crucial when you're a remote team, but right now with the social distancing, it's really important that we are connecting with our team and we're having that face-to-face interaction. All right. Determine what work is priority, use Zoom, and then you're going to want to meet via Zoom daily with your direct reports right now. Again, this is not forever, but this is right now. During times of uncertainty, there's an increase in worry and stress. So there's going to be an increase in worry and stress with your team. And so you want to touch base with them daily to check in on work, help them focus, help them prioritize, but also as an opportunity for you to check in on their emotional wellness. And the fourth thing to do right now, learn this phrase, know this phrase, use this phrase a lot with your team. This is an unprecedented time. You're doing a great job. I've been saying that. I've been talking to companies nonstop, employees nonstop, and this is what keeps coming up because there's a lot of uncertainty right now, a lot of unknowns. We're in an unprecedented time. We're doing a great job. Okay, that's do it now stuff. Now let's talk about the next thing I need you as leaders to do to lead your team remotely during this pandemic. I need you to shift your expectations. Your team is going to be less productive than normal. Why? Because your people are going to have less time to work each day. Many people are remote for the first time, and that's a steep learning curve. Figuring out how to structure your work, figuring out the tools you need to use, figuring out where in your house you're going to work best, it's a steep learning curve. Many people are remote only for the first time. Again, another steep learning curve. A big reason why we have less time to work each day is because our kids are at home. And another reason, the world just doesn't make sense right now. There's a lot of things that are stealing our focus because there's this worry, this anxiety, this stress. We're all worried about relatives of ours. We're worried about friends. We're checking in constantly. We're trying to keep up on what's actually going on. So our attention is so divided right now. But I want to talk about the kids piece. Under normal circumstances, having your kids at home while you're working would not be advisable. And this is something when I work with companies to go remote or when I worked at remote companies in the past, this was talked about during the hiring process. Hey, we are a remote company. That does not mean that working from home is a substitute for childcare. You need to make sure that you are fully able to work in these set hours from your house and your children have childcare. So under normal circumstances, it would never be advisable to work at home with your kids. But there's no choice. There's no choice right now. This is a picture. This is my new normal right now. My daughter is 20 months old and she is always around, except for right now, she's in napping. But this is what my normal looks like right now. And for many of your employees and your teams, this is what's going to be happening. So even for those of us who are super remote savvy and have been remote employees for years, it's a whole new wrench in it. We're being very challenged. So as leaders, I want you to embrace that kids are going to be pulling on sleeves. Kids are going to be screaming on conference calls, and they are going to be showing up on video calls. And as a leader, I want you to lead by example. If you have kids, talk about it. Have them show up on your video call. Be open and honest about your struggles. Say, I thought that I could work this schedule, and turns out that didn't happen. So I was really challenged by this. And so I'm making these changes. Lead by example. Be the one that's willing to talk about it. You can see in this picture, Betty is on basically all of our Zoom calls right now because that's just what has to happen in the current situation. Another thing I want you to do as a leader is encourage a lot of communication. Make sure you're checking in with your team. How are things going working from home with your family? What do you need? What are you being challenged by? Just encourage them to communicate with you when things are working or when they're not. And ask your team, given the priorities of what you need to get done, what will you be able to get done today to feel accomplished and sane? This is a really great question because it's balancing the productivity with their emotional wellness. What can you get accomplished today to feel, or what can you get done today to feel accomplished and sane? Okay, so we're shifting our expectations. Your team is going to be less productive. Work and meeting schedules will need to shift. You don't have to have all the answers. You don't need to know exactly how they need to shift. This is where you discuss with your team. Discuss how they can work, when they can work best, given the circumstances. Try it. And if it doesn't work, course correct. Right now, we're kind of in a day-to-day evolution. So just make sure that you're practicing flexibility and really encouraging communication. Make sure you don't set your team up for failure. If you expect business as usual, if you expect that they're going to be able to work the exact same hours and produce the exact same amount right now with their kids at home or all these other things, that's setting them up for failure. And if you set them up for failure, they will fail. And not only will they fail, they will feel like a total failure. And that is going to really affect their mental health and their emotional wellness. And it's not good right now because there's so many other external factors that are affecting our mental health and our emotional wellness right now. The other thing, I've talked with a lot of companies and they've said, maybe we should just give our employees the next 2 weeks off on vacation. They're like, but then that will really, be a huge financial hit for us. All this work won't get done. And I've talked to so many employees and people are not wanting a vacation right now. There's no vacation really to be had. So people want to be working. It just might have to shift a little bit. It just might have to look a little different right now. So just make sure you are working with them. Okay, so shift your expectations. The next thing I want to talk about leading a remote team right now during the coronavirus pandemic is do impact only work. Why should you only be doing impact only work? Because remember, your team is going to have less time to work each day. So we need to be really intentional on what work we're all doing. And we need to focus on doing work that is actually moving the needle at our companies. So my challenge to you is shift your perspective on this. Instead of seeing this time as a really sucky situation with like no work, like we're probably not going to get like any work done, choose to see this as an opportunity. Discover what work actually moves the needle at your company. Discover what work actually needs to be done to move the business forward. And so a great way to do this is to ask this question. And I ask this of my team every day, especially right now. If you could only get one thing done today to move the business forward, what would that be? This is a fantastic question to ask. And I put it on here. It rocks. And let me tell you why. It rocks because this requires your team to think innovatively. It requires them to think creatively, strategically. It requires them to practice owner's mindset, which are all amazing traits to cultivate within your team. So you can actually use this time that we're in where we have less time to work and need to be really focused on doing impact only work. Use this strategically for personal and professional development from your team. Make sure they're focusing in on what is the work that I can do today to move the needle right now. That's impact only work. Okay. Next tip, focus on team connection right now. Social connection is crucial, especially in our socially distant world that we are living in right now. It helps our teams to be productive. It helps them to focus. It improves their emotional wellness. It helps them to know that they are not alone, which it's very lonely in our socially distant world right now. So it's really important for us as leaders to make sure that we are ensuring our teams feel that they're not alone. There are a million amazing ways to connect a remote team. And this is like something I'm super passionate about is remote employee engagement. And there's so many fun, cool ways. But we don't have all this time to try and be creative and do all these cool things. So let me talk about the best way to connect your team right now. The best way right now is to have daily meetings, short meetings, but daily meetings. So I am recommending that you have a daily schedule of a 15-minute stand-up in the morning, a 30-minute, I call it a perk up at noon, and then a 15-minute stand down in the evenings. Let me dive into this a little bit more. So here's an example. This is a picture of a stand-up. So you can have a big team and still do a stand-up together as a team. So it's 15 minutes, same time every morning, for example, 9 a.m. It's a time for you to say good morning to your team. And also, this is a great time to ask that one thing question. Go around. If we could get one thing done today to move the business forward, what would that be? So it's a great way to start everyone's day connected with each other, getting everyone focused on what the priorities of the business are today. Then at lunchtime, I recommend doing a 30-minute perk up, and it's like having lunch in the break room. So this should be extremely informal. It's just a time to connect, a time to socialize, a time to re-energize the team. And then in the evening, you can have a stand down. And this is a picture of my team, my small team. Me, Steph, and Dan, and our daughter Betty is also a part of the stand downs. And we turn ours into happy hour. It's just a fun time to come together and talk about, okay, what did we get done today? What are we celebrating? What are we challenged by? But it's a really good way for us, again, to have that social connection, but then also to kind of bring it all together as a team for the day. And I'm not saying that like this is now your work day is over, because again, our work schedules are shifting with our daughter being home with us, but it's still a way for us as a team to come together and end the day, even if our work is going to continue. So this would be an example schedule that I would recommend right now with your teams. 9 a.m. stand up, and then everyone goes and does their work or their one-on-one small group meetings. Noon, perk up. Normally when I implement this with organizations, this part is not mandatory. However, I would err on the side of having this be mandatory right now, just because this social connection is so important for our people working remotely right now. And then 5 p.m. stand down. So this is the daily schedule I am recommending right now for this social connection. The other thing I want to talk about really quick is weekly one-on-ones. I've talked to a lot of companies and employees in the past 5 days, and a lot of leaders are canceling their one-on-ones, and it's having a really negative effect on employees. So if you are doing weekly one-on-ones with your direct reports, you need to keep doing them. If you're not doing them, you need to start doing them. Don't cancel them. And right now in your one-on-ones, I want you to be asking questions that go over work, that go over remote work, and emotional wellness, because these are things that all of our people are we really need them to focus on these 3 areas right now. So also this webinar is being recorded, so do not feel like you need to furiously write down all of these notes, but I've put together specific questions that I would ask your direct reports at your one-on-ones right now. This is going over work. So like, what are you working on today? What challenges are you facing? Then one specific to remote work. What's it like working remotely? What is something you like about it? What's one thing that we could do to make it better for you? And then also make sure that you are checking in on your team's emotional wellness. So these questions of how are you doing overall? How's your family? What do you need to feel whole, calm, the way you need to feel right now? What are you worried about? I asked this yesterday in my one-on-one with one of my employees. I asked, what are you worried about? And she was able to talk about all of her worries. And I asked her later on, I was like, how was that one-on-one today? And she said, she's like, it was amazing to be asked that, because now that I've said all those things out loud, it's taking up less brain space. And so I'm able to focus more on the things that I'm doing. So don't be afraid to ask questions about what are you worried about? Or I've seen some really great posts on leaders talking with their teams and saying, you know what, I'm scared too. And I don't have the answers, but we will navigate this together. And remember, you are not required to have all the answers. So if you ask those questions, don't feel like you have to know how to solve all of the problems that your team's having right now. You don't have to have all the answers, but we as leaders, we do have a responsibility to create a safe, non-judgmental space, to ask our team how they're doing, to listen, to value their input, and to take action when applicable. So it is our responsibility to make sure that our teams feel safe, physically and psychologically. Okay, focus on team connection. And last, but certainly not least, to lead a remote team during this coronavirus pandemic, I really want us all to step up and to be the leaders that we were meant to be. This part's the part that gets me all excited. So I want you to lead by example. Talk about how you're structuring your work schedule. Allow your kids to show up on your Zoom calls. Talk about that you're scared too. Talk about your own worries. And I want us all to be compassionate, to assume positive intent, and to trust our people. We have amazing people. We have amazing teams. Things are weird right now. And so we really need to be compassionate, communicate, assume positive intent, and trust that our teams are doing the absolute best that they can given the circumstances. We don't know everything that's going on for them. We don't know everything that's going on in their head or how their home situation is. We don't know. So we need to be compassionate, we need to trust, and we need to assume positive intent. And we also, as leaders right now, we have a huge opportunity. This is the time for us to step up and be the leaders that we're meant to be. And honestly, I don't care if you've been an amazing leader up until this point, or if you've been a sucky one, if you've built an amazing culture, or if you've built a toxic one. We have an opportunity right now. We can continue on this trajectory of amazing leadership, or you have the opportunity to pivot and turn this into something amazing for your team. So the most important thing to do right now in this time as a leader is to live your values and care for your people. It is, again, it's okay not to have all the answers and to let your team know that you don't know all the answers right now. Most people don't want you to fix their problems. They don't want you to give them all the solutions. They need someone to listen to them right now. They need to be heard. And so we will return to a state of normalcy. It might be different, but we will return to a state of normalcy. And we need to think about, who do you want to be as a leader during this time? A few months from now, when we look back, what do you want to have done? Who do you want to have been during this time for your team? The best case scenario that we can really hope for is that our team looks back in a few months and says, wow, that was totally insane. We had no idea what we were doing, but we lived our values. We cared about each other. And my leaders did everything that they could to make sure we felt supported, connected, heard, and valued. This is what we should be hoping for. So remember, this is an unprecedented time. You are doing a great job. And the next steps that I would like you to take is to talk with me, hang out with me. I'm giving free 20-minute remote work and remote leadership strategy sessions. So this is a time to talk one-on-one with me, and we can dive into your company's specifics about what you're challenged by, and then brainstorm and troubleshoot so I can make sure that you have everything that you need. So you can go to www.choosetheperk.com/SVA, and you can sign up right there. The other thing I want to note is that SVA is amazing, and they are doing other awesome webinars to make sure you all have what you need to be confident and capable during this time. So this is one that is next week. Make sure you sign up. Registration will be available tomorrow. This is going to be a good one. Make sure you are there. All right, now we can shift into the Q&A portion. Ask any questions you have, any challenges that you're facing right now, or if you want to share tips of what's working well for you so that others could benefit, that would be amazing as well. Any questions?
Yeah, I have one. Is my audio coming through okay?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. How would you, or what guidance would you give to employees who have, let's call it a suboptimal work from home environment? Let's say there are, kids that they're home with, given that schools are canceled, or they lack appropriate workspace. Any best practices that you would relay to teams that fit that category?
Yes. So on the kids piece, I can definitely give you more resources on that. So I am doing webinars for employees, free webinars for employees who are working from home with kids. So giving them best tips. And also I have a Facebook group as well for employees who are working from home right now with kids. So I can definitely send you those resources because we're learning new tips every single day. But the biggest advice I have for employees right now working from home with kids or having suboptimal spaces to work is, one, being really gentle with yourself. Again, this is an unprecedented time, but also communicating with your team. So what I've heard that's working really well for employees is communicating with the team of like, hey, this is how many kids I have at home. This is nap schedules or whatever. These are the times that I can actually do meetings. I can't do meetings outside of that. So just being really clear and communicating what you can and cannot do And then it's on us as leaders to be flexible and be compassionate and help them make it work. And in terms of workspace, a dedicated workspace is definitely ideal. But I know a lot of people that are setting up at dining room tables right now. And again, we just have to get used to seeing kids on Zoom calls, kids being in the background of conference calls. There's no other choice right now.
Yeah, so one suggestion I have using Zoom.
Oh, I can hear Dan, but he's
like
muted.
that. Can you hear me?
Any other questions?
Can you hear me?
Now we can.
So one thing I would suggest, Zoom is a really powerful tool to record your screen. So say you want to go over something with one of your coworkers for, usually you would do it just 5 minutes at your desk, but you can't nail them down because they have kids or whatever. You can record your screen and go over something with them and send them that video, and then they can look at it, 20 minutes later when you might not have time. Like, there's a lot of passing the batons with kids and stuff. So leverage technology. You can easily Google how to do Zoom screen share and create like a 5-minute video and send it to someone. You can share the document. It's really effective. We do it all the time. So just FYI, it's a great tool.
That is really good. That is a really good suggestion.
Hi, Leah, I have a question.
Yeah.
What guidance would you give for team members that we have been maybe working through performance-related issues going into this whole situation? I think this week there's been sort of a tendency to have a lot of compassion and a lot of understanding, but as things progress and the reality is that there are going to be performance concerns, I've never been in a situation where I've had those tough conversations in anything but a face-to-face setting. So I'd be curious to get your guidance on how to approach those remotely.
Yeah, so I was the VP of People and Culture at a completely remote organization. So just know that those conversations can absolutely be done. Again, we use Zoom, so it was, virtually face-to-face, but you can absolutely still have those crucial conversations, the performance conversations. And we were a remote company. I terminated people virtually. I was going to say often. We weren't firing people all the time, but that's how our terminations took place. So you can absolutely still have those conversations. Again, video call, I would recommend. We have to have a little bit of a mind shift right now. Instead of going into things thinking like this can't be done remotely, we have to shift a little bit of like, okay, what if this is possible? Then what do we need to do differently? So I would definitely, you still need to have those conversations, but they can be done remotely.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. And yes, they'll be a little bit uncomfortable. Everyone's getting used to the remote world, but it can be done for sure. What other questions? What are people challenged by right now? Has anyone found a tip that works really well with your team going remote?
Hi, Leah. I think
Hi.
there are some questions on the Zoom group chat that you can take a look at.
Thank you. Okay, I have 3 different departments under me. How could I manage 3 Zooms with each of them? So for follow-up on this, 3 different departments. So is the question how can you have 3 different meetings with each of stand-ups with each of them? Yes, okay. Great question. How is it possible? Okay, so one of the things, depending on, I don't know how many people are in these departments, so you could have one meeting and bring everyone together in the morning, or you can have them broken up into like having, I don't know if you have managers underneath you, but managers can lead the 3 different Zooms, and you can like pop into one every other day if you want to. Or you can like, it's really or I guess the question is, how many people are in this? How many people do you have in each department? 15 on each team. Okay. And do you have a manager under you or no? Perfect. Okay. So you can definitely do a Zoom with the entire group if you want in the morning. And that might change. Like maybe you don't have everyone go around and answer that question. Maybe you check in with them who doesn't know what to work on. But I've worked at a company, we had 75 people and we would get on a Zoom together every morning. And our leader would talk about, what are the priorities of the day. So that might be a better way to structure that for that large of a team. Okay, and another question, what if an employee is hourly and just can't give you 40 hours a week, then they suffer on the paycheck? Yeah, this is a very real reality right now because again, people are at home with kids, so a lot of people can't work as many hours. So that's really, it's a tough call for a company. Do you want to provide them more pay right now, given the current situation, if your company is able to? Or, yeah, I don't know. Is anyone else navigating that right now? Hourly employees not able to get in their hours?
Yeah, something I would say about this is I've had this question before, and also with PTO, like letting employees take PTO right now, given that they can't work and their kids are at home and they're in flux. And do what you have to do right now, but just keep in mind with the PTO and the hourly workers that when this thing levels out and people are struggling financially or they can't take vacation again for a year and are stuck in their cubes, each day you're gonna have to assess these situations, and you can always make amends or change things a week from now. But I just want everyone to keep that in mind.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's, that's the thing is like we will return to a state of normalcy, and that's what's hard right now. It is very much a day-to-day thing. And when our employees look back, and that's a very real concern for a lot of companies right now, is that there's this nervousness that we're not going to handle it well. And that when this is all done, our employees will leave because they'll be like, that wasn't handled well by our leadership. And so I think just, being a part of this webinar is an amazing step that you're showing that you want to be a great leader during this time. Again, there's no roadmap on this. Nobody's written rules. So it's really important for us to have these conversations and share what other people are doing.
So Leah,
Yeah.
If you're connected with your employees every day, like you're suggesting, and at the end of the day, you ask them to just do a little quick wrap up. So we use Microsoft Teams.
Mm-hmm.
So whether you're doing a Zoom meeting or you're going to just send kind of a quick summary of what you did during the day, you're going to, a lot of our remote workers, they're on their honor. You trust your people. They've been working for you. You see their work habits every day before this happened.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if you can how you would actually determine if someone put in 40 hours or if they put in 35 or if they put in 55.
Mm-hmm.
But you can certainly ask them, what was their production during the day? What are the things that they accomplished, whether you do that in a Zoom or a wrap-up email at the end of the day or whatever, to get an idea of where were they during that day. Or if they're, they're checking in with you and asking questions or whatever. But for the most part, you need to trust the people who've been working for you before this. I don't know, just some thoughts.
No, I think that's so true. Somebody put in the comments that they've started paying their employees $50 a month for internet and cell phone during this work from home time. I love that. I've heard of some companies doing that, and I think that that is fantastic if your company is able to just help with the transition. Also, I know we like went over a lot of stuff today. And so in situations like this, I always like to say, like, when this is all done, like write down on a piece of paper, like what's your one thing? Like what's one thing you took from today that you want to make sure that you implement with your team, or that you talk about with your team, or that you go and do? Because I don't want there to be like analysis paralysis of like, oh my gosh, that was a lot. I'm not sure exactly what to do next. So take what's your one thing and make sure you write that down and take action on that. Any other questions? Any other celebrations? Is anyone loving this new work from home with their team? I'm a huge remote work fan, so I'd love some celebrations. Oh, someone liked sleeping in today. That's a good one. I've really been enjoying, well, it's raining today, but I've been enjoying going outside more, taking walks with my family. And I think that's another thing, like us as leaders, this is a really hard time. We should be helping our employees to shift perspective a little bit and helping them to put a little positive energy into their lives. People are saving time on commuting. That's a good call. That's huge. Any other questions, struggles, concerns? My dog is, yeah, our dog is loving his life too. He gets way more walks than he did a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, I have a suggestion. Just try things. I know this person who mentioned, like, the HR Zoom calls. I mean, if you get 75 people on a call, like just do it once and see how it works and iterate. But you're never going to know until you try. I mean, there's a lot of new things. The first one probably will not go smoothly. Half the people won't know how to turn their mics on, but you'll build on it.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I worked at remote companies forever. I help companies with remote work. We are basically a remote company, although we built our team and our tools and our processes around being completely remote, but we chose to work all together, the three of us. And so we are implementing, the stand up, the perk up, and the stand down every day. And so it's like, we're trying new things to see what's going to work for us. So please know that even those of us who are completely remote work savvy are trying things, and some things are working, some things are not. And we're iterating, like, again, I keep saying it, this is an unprecedented time. So you just have to try things, communicate, change them when need be. Oh, that's nice. So this person, also, we typically have a monthly staff meeting after work at a brewery. Next week, we're going to try that virtually with real beer. Definitely. Virtual happy hours are great. And people are doing lunch and learns. Like, there's a lot you can do with your team to stay connected and engage everyone together. And again, it's okay if kids are in there, if dogs are barking. It is what it is. And I agree. It's so heartwarming to see companies come together for their employees during this time. It's huge. And again, you all being here is showing that, like, you want to be amazing leaders for your team during this time. That's incredible. I wish I could see all your faces, but I am okay with your screens being off. That's one thing I will say, though. If you are using Zoom or video software with your team, recommending to default to screens on. Yay, I see someone. Yay, Scott. Yay, Jenny. Yay, Dan. But recommending you default to screens on, because that that visual connection is so important. Yay! Oh, I should have said this at the beginning. But also, you know, also talking, that's awesome. Also talking about that, you know, you understand if screens are off, if you're taking a big bite of a burrito, or if your kid is pulling at your hair, which mine definitely did on a video call yesterday. Yay! I love seeing the screens. And this is so fun too, because so much of your work and your team engagement has been in the office for a lot of people, that it's really cool to get a snapshot into somebody's life. And so you can do cool things like show and tell, like, okay, today on our lunch break or whatever, we're going to like show one thing in our house that like is really meaningful to us, or we think is hilarious, or something like that. We used to, at a company we used to work at, we used to have we used Slack, and we had a channel called Out of the Nest, and we would share pictures of us all working around the world because we were remote. Can't do that right now, but you could share funny pictures of where you've chosen to work in your house. That could be funny. You could turn it into a competition. Like, there's so many fun ways to connect as a team. So really trying to take this time as an opportunity of not just like, oh, this sucks, we can't be around each other, and like, how can we still connect and have fun in the way that like aligns with our values while being socially distant? Does anyone have any ideas? Is anyone doing anything fun with their team? Not yet. I'm sure you all will definitely do something cool. Okay, we have 3 minutes. What else? Could be totally random. What's everyone having for lunch today? Lasagna, pizza, ooh, salad. Nice. Also, this is like a very exciting time that Dan's on the screen and I'm on the screen, and there's no chat. She's napping right now. This is like the first time this has happened where we've both been on a call together in weeks. Oh, there's the monitor. Oh, that's awesome. All right. Any last minute words? Again, you can go to www.choosetheperk.com/SVA. Schedule a one-on-one with me, 20 minutes. We can talk about your company's struggles, challenges, troubleshoot, or if you just want to hang out with me for 20 minutes on Zoom, I would love that as well. I'm an extrovert, so I need as much social connection as I can right now. So yeah, thank you all so much for coming today. And again, this is an unprecedented time, and you are all doing a great job. Give yourselves a round of applause. A pat on the back. Thanks, everyone.